All right, so this is our third and final box, the pop-up butterfly box. So we're gonna do some stamping first, and I'll tell you for this one, to get the stuff prepped, there's gonna be waiting for drying time in between. The butterflies are watercolors, so you need to wait for that to dry. Then we'll die cut them or hand cut them if you don't happen to have the dies or you're choosing a different stamp. And then at the very end, before we put our card together, we're also going to add stickles, so we need to wait for that to dry. It's going to be much easier to put the stickles on the butterfly before they are in the box. But the first step, let's stamp our pieces so we can let that ink dry for a few minutes. So I just have some Stays On ink here. I've got my flower stamps already ready to go to stamp them on the little tabs. If by chance you have some printed paper that you like, that you would prefer to use, absolutely you can use printed papers for this. And then you can custom paint your butterflies to match those papers. And obviously much easier to stamp these before our card is together. I'm just gonna do one last stamped image there. I've already got my sentiment stamped and aside to dry. This is Stays On ink, so it's gonna dry pretty quick, but I do want to give it a few seconds or some time to dry while we're creating the rest. So I'm going to ink up my butterflies. And you do have to do this fairly quickly because the ink dries fairly quickly. So this particular watercolor paper, it's kind of textured on both sides, so I choose the least textured side. And I clearly chose a piece of paper that was smaller than my butterflies. But that's okay because I already have some prepped, so this is just to show you the technique. So you would obviously want to either use less butterflies to fit your paper or have a bigger piece of paper. You could do 2 pieces of paper, whatever you want. When I was creating my sample, the papers that I had were already pre-cut and they were this size. I clearly grabbed one that was a little bit smaller without realizing it. So once again, this takes a few seconds for it to dry. And while that is drying, and by a few seconds, I really mean like a few seconds. It doesn't take that long for it to dry. I'm going to use Distress Reinkers to watercolor. I like them because they're nice and vibrant and they're transparent. This is what it is. It's just reinker to fit into the distress pads. And I love having a tool that does dual duty. So all I do to color these butterflies, let me grab a piece of paper towel to clean my brush off in between. I'm choosing bright, vibrant colors. I'm going to start with peacock feathers. I start in the center and go out. I start at the darkest part basically and go out. I find it's much easier to point your paintbrush where it's going to be darker. And then for all of the butterflies, it doesn't matter which colors I'm using, cleaned the brush. And this brush, you only clean it by squeezing it out onto paper towel and then your brush is clean. That was a little bit lighter than the other side, so I'm just going to add some more ink to it. So all of the butterflies, I did one color in the center and then a different color from the outside going in. So that same picked raspberry, I'm going to go in the center of this butterfly. And you can see that I rotate my paper. I just find it easier to rotate the paper rather than to try turn my, oops, that wasn't quite clean, than to turn my brush around. So I'm going to do yellow on the outside here. And like I said before, if you choose printed paper, you can custom color your butterflies to match whatever papers you choose, which is also going to be very pretty. That same yellow, might as well grab that for the center of another one. And then I know I had some of this purple. So the one thing to know about these reinkers is on this palette, they never dry. So they have to be stored horizontally Just something that's better to know ahead of time rather than thinking they're going to dry and tipping them up and having them all leak out. All right, so you would continue until all of your butterflies were completely colored. Now you need to let that totally dry. So I'm going to pause the camera. When this is totally dry, we'll go into die cutting. Now, this particular stamp set, when it first came out, had dies that matched it. Likely that set is discontinued. If you happen to have it, this is how you die cut it. If you don't happen to have it, I would hand cut it. Butterflies are fairly simple to hand cut. And these are all simple shapes. You don't have to hand cut the little antenna. Even the dies don't cut those out. So I'll see you in a few minutes and we will do some die cutting. All right, our butterflies are mostly dry, but I got impatient. So, and knowing that I already have some ready to go, I don't really need to wait till it's 100% dry. But you definitely want to wait till it's dry because otherwise you're going to be transferring your ink to your machine plate and making a mess basically. So these particular dies have the blade right on this line there. So it's really easy to just look at it and line it up. You need to tape it in place so that you know it's not going to shift in the machine. If by chance you have your entire piece colored, ready to go, you need to do it in 2 steps. You would do those butterflies first or second, and then you would do this in another run. And the reason is the chances of the dies overlapping each other is too great, as well as the fact that you can't properly tape your dies down so that they don't shift. And we don't want to ruin our dies. And after taking the time to stamp a watercolor, we also want to be able to position everything as best as possible to get a clean die cut. So I'm going to put it face down, run it through my machine, and then just poke it out. So I'm going to set that aside because I actually don't need it. I do have some ink on here, so I definitely need to clean this off before using it. Otherwise, it's going to transfer to whatever other piece of paper I put it to. So I'm going to show you how I put one of these together. I already have the tape on my acetate piece, same as I did for the balloons. I'm going to glue this to the back. That center is still a little bit wet, so it may not want to stick to it. I like to shape my butterfly wings a little bit. I just think it makes them look a little bit prettier. So I did that for all of them. And then I took some stickles. So I have platinum here that I put in the centers of the butterflies because otherwise their bodies got lost. And then I added just a little bit of an opalescent one because I didn't want to hide the color that we painted it. And I'm just adding it to the outside. I only did it to the outside outer edges. If you wanted to do it to the entire thing, you absolutely could. So there we go. And then that needs to be set aside to completely dry. And then through the magic of pre-doing things, I have a whole bunch already made and dry. So you'll be able to see right there the difference between them when they're dry. The stickles flattens out a little bit and it just becomes really pretty and sparkly. So I'll see you in the next video and we will assemble our card.